Hey friends, March of the Machines Aftermath has just been released, and although it's a very small set with only 50 cards, there are 21 new legendary creatures that can be your commander. So almost half the set is all legendary creatures. So I thought it would be fun to take all the legendary creatures and pop them into a tier list. And I'm going to show my initial thoughts on all the new cards and whether or not they're going to be good as commanders. This is not going to be a power ranking guide or anything. This is basically a personal hype list, what I am personally most excited to get my hands on and to build around. So I'm going to go over each individual card and I'm going to see if it's going to be good for me personally as a commander, or if I would prefer it in the 99, and then where I would rank it in my personal hype list. So feel free to disagree on your own rankings of all these commanders, and please let me know in the comments section how you would rank these commanders as well. Alright, we're starting alphabetically with Arnie Metalbrow. This is 2 and a red, legendary creature, human berserker, that says whenever a creature you control attacks or a creature enters the battlefield under your control attacking, you may pay 1 and a red. If you do, you may put a creature card with mana value less than that creature's mana value from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. So this is basically a sneak attack commander, but it has a requirement of having a higher mana value creature attacking, and then you can cheat into play a lower mana value creature. So this is a kind of a roundabout way of cheating on mana and also giving more creatures you control haste. This is kind of mana efficient at what it's doing, but I think it's kind of clunky also in what it's doing. You actually need to have a higher mana value creature already attacking in order to cheat into play other creatures from your hand. And while there are some creatures out there that have higher mana value that you can cast for a lot cheaper than their mana cost, they're kind of few and far between, so I would say it's kind of clunky to build Arnie as a sneak attack commander, but it's definitely doable. Personally, I would be going for other sneak attack commanders as my higher preference, like Ilharg, for example, in mono red, and my personal favorite is Purphoros Bronze Blooded, which has basically the same ability as sneak attack. Arnie doesn't have you sacrifice the creature or bounce it back to your hand. You have it on the battlefield forever. So that is a major upside on having Arnie as a commander for your sneak attack deck. But I just prefer the other ones. There's less hoops to jump through. It's a little bit less clunky to actually activate the ability. I'd probably put Arnie in the 99 if anything, but I'm already doubting it. I have a Purphoros Bronze Blooded deck myself in paper, and I'm not sure if I'm going to actually put Arnie in the deck there. So Arnie is going to go into a C. I might tinker with him in the 99, but I'm not super hyped for him. I like sneak attack. Sneak attack's very cool, but I think his ability is a little bit too clunky to actually build around. Next up, we have Calix, Guided by Fate. This is a Selesnya Enchantress commander who has a extra ability that focuses on +1/+1 counters and also copying enchantments, which is very cool. It's a 3-mana Selesnya legendary enchantment creature human druid. So it itself is an enchantment and it's going to benefit from enchantment synergies. And it has 2 abilities: Constellation. Whenever Calix or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. And whenever Calix or another enchanted creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may create a token that's a copy of a non-legendary enchantment you control. Do this only once each turn. So whenever you're making enchantments, you're going to put +1/+1 counters on your creatures, or any target creature really. You could help your opponents, I guess. So you grow your board just passively as you're doing your enchantment stuff. And then whenever Calix or another enchanted creature deals combat damage, you get to copy something, and that's pretty major. You can copy legendary enchantments, but copying something like a doubling season, for example, to double your doubling is going to be pretty bonkers and get out of control very quickly. It's only once each turn, but I mean, this is a very effective ability, very powerful ability, and it's on a 3-drop, so it's incredibly mana efficient even if you can only do it once per turn. So I think Calix is actually a very powerful Enchantress commander who I don't think will see much play at all, because we already have a gluttony of powerful Enchantress commanders. We had Lightpaws recently, which just broke mono white, and more popularly is Sithis in Selesnya colors, which is the exact same colors as Calix, which is just a 2-mana draw a bunch of cards, Enchantress goes burr. So even though Calix is very interesting and very powerful, I don't think he's going to be very popular, even though I personally like Calix a whole much more than Sythis or most other Enchantress things. I've been a diehard Enchantress player, I will say, for many, many years, and I was a big advocate of Enchantress, especially in white decks. I thought it was a very clever way of making mono white much more powerful because it was a primary color of white, especially auras, which is something that Calix likes a lot, enchanted creatures, to get his second triggered ability. But I don't know, lately, after like the past 4 years, I would say 3 years, Enchantress has gotten so much support, especially in Selesnya colors, that I've kind of lost my personal interest in Enchantress. I do think Calix is really cool. I might tinker with him, but if I saw him 4 years ago, I'd be super hyped for him. I'd put him as an easy S. But these days in 2023, as I'm just been tired of so much Selesnya Enchantress these days, I rank him more of a B or an A. I'd say he's a B. I think he's really cool. I always love Enchantress, but we've just seen so much lately that if we had a little bit of a break, I would be more excited for him. Next up, we have Danitha, New Benalia's Light. This is Selesnya, and it supports both auras and equipments, casting them from the graveyard. So this is a 3-mana legendary creature, Human Knight, Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, and once during each of your turns, you may cast an aura or equipment spell from your graveyard. So this is pretty simple and pretty mana efficient. It's a 3-drop that has good keywords, loves being equipped, loves being enchanted because it has Vigilance, Trample, and Lifelink, so anything to pump its power and toughness, you're going to see a big reward for that. And also, just once per your turn, you can cast something from your graveyard, so it's just steady card advantage for a 3-drop, which is very good. That said, I don't think she's good enough that she entices me as a commander. I think she's a really strong playmaker in any Selesnya deck that either deals with a lot of auras or equipments, but I like her much more in the 99. So for example, in Selesnya, if I'm doing a Selesnya equipment deck, I really like Nizan. Nizan fetches equipments from your library, especially its powerful signature card, the Hammer. That's very powerful. That's really exciting to build around for me personally. And if I'm building Selesnya auras, I much prefer Siona. I have a Siona Aura Boonweaver combo deck. Like I said, I was very big on Enchantress, especially auras, back in the day, and back in the day was 2 years ago. And I don't really play it that much anymore just because I'm kind of tired of Enchantress, but if I did want to do Enchantress or auras in Selesnya, that's the commander I like going with. So I like Danitha a lot, but I like her a lot more in the 99 of decks. So as a commander, not really interested in. As part of the 99, I like her a lot. I'm going to put her as a solid B. Next, we have Jirina, Dauntless General. This is an Orzhov Humans Matter type commander. It's just 2 mana. It's a white and a black for a legendary creature, Human Soldier. When Jirina enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard. So ETB, graveyard hate. That's always nice. And then you can sacrifice Jirina to give humans you control hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So this is just board wipe protection. You can either wipe the board yourself and sacrifice Jirina before that, or if an opponent tries to wipe your board full of creatures, humans, then you can just save them for 2 mana. So it's very efficient at what it's doing, and it opens the doors for a lot of graveyard recursion effects. Jirina's only 2 mana, so you can get her back with Sun Titan, you can get her back with Loyal Retainers, you can get her back with a lot of things in white and in black for very cheap to keep saving your board of human. So Jirina has a really powerful effect. It's really useful in basically any human deck. I love her in human decks, but again, I wouldn't put her as my commander. She's not enticing enough for me as the leader of a deck, as opposed to something in the 99 that I can fetch up and use for utility whenever I need her. Once I have actually developed a human board, then I can tutor her up or something, and then I'm really happy to see her. So it's a card I'm always happy to see in a human tribal deck. Love her, but not as a commander. She just doesn't do anything proactive enough that I'm super excited to build around. My personal favorite Orzhov human tribal deck is the Partners. I think it's Trin and Sylvar. They're Mardu. One of them is white. One of them is white, and one of them is Rakdos. I really love that pairing a whole bunch, and I'd love to put Jarina in the 99 there. So in terms of rankings, again, I love Jarina. I'll put her in the 99 in a whole bunch of human tribal decks, basically any human tribal deck that is an Orzhov. But as a commander, doesn't really tickle my fancy. I'm just going to put her as a B. Next up, we have a commander that I can never pronounce properly. It's Jor-El, Voice of Zhalfir. This is a Simic Lands Matters, but in a cool way, like animate Lands Matters commander, which I'm really excited for. Let me just read the text first. It's a 4-mana Simic commander, 2 green and a blue, legendary creature human druid. At the beginning of combat on your turn, up to one target land you control becomes an XX green and blue bird creature with flying and haste until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. It's still a land. So if you want to draw a lot of cards and you're in Simic, so you're going to draw a lot of cards, you could have like a 7/7 just punching somebody in the face with flying, and it's a land, and it's a bird, it's great. And if you can draw more than that and you have like a reliquary tower effect on the battlefield, so you don't have to discard it down to hand size, you could hit something for 20 or more. You could draw your entire deck and punch somebody in the face for lethal. That's super fun. And then she has another ability. Whenever a land creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So she is basically a Toski effect, a coastal piracy effect, or whatever you want to call it effect, for land creatures, which I think is super cool. So I see Jor-El as actually kind of a unique commander. Like, we've seen Simic Lands Matters a billion times. We've seen Simic draw cards a billion times. That's not particularly exciting to me, but I do like the idea of animating my lands and punching people in the face with them. Jor-El herself animates one per turn, so you can draw one card off it and deal a lot of damage in the air at the same time. But I'm more excited about doing like mass land reanimation, like Sylvan Awakening, for example, turning all my lands into creatures and then punching people in the face and drawing a ton of cards and setting up for a more even lethal animation with Jor-El on the next turn. So draw a lot of cards, animate all my lands, punch people in the face. It's very Simic. It's kind of all the same stuff you expect from Simic, honestly, and you're going to be running all the same cards. You're going to be running all the land ramp. You're going to be running, Tatyova to draw even more cards off the land ramp and all that good stuff, and yada yada yada. So it's not breaking a lot of new ground, but at least like 5 or 6 of the cards in the deck are going to be really exciting to me personally, because this Sylvan Awakening and this mass land reanimation, so there's a little bit of a twist onto Simic Landfall that I'm very excited for. So again, not a power ranking guy, not a whatever ranking guy. This is just personal hype list. I'm personally hyped for Jor-El. I think I'm going to play her maybe like once or twice before I get bored of Simic Landfall. But for now, I'm going to put her as an A because I am super hyped to give her a shot at least once or twice. Next, we have Karn Legacy Reforged. This is a D-Spark commander. Kind of the gimmick of the set is a whole bunch of the Planeswalkers lost their spark. Karn in the story willingly gave up his spark before I think everybody else lost their sparks. But he's one of the D-Sparked Planeswalkers in the set, and he has now just a creature format. So Karn Legacy Reforged is going to be Colorless Artifact Matters as a commander. It's a 5-mana colorless legendary artifact creature golem, and its power and toughness are each equal to the greatest mana value among artifacts you control. So if you have like a 5-drop artifact on the battlefield, he's going to be a 5/5. At the beginning of your upkeep, add 1 colorless for each artifact you control. So if you have like 10 artifacts, you add 10 colorless to your mana pool. This mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells, and until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. So Karn is just for artifacts. The more artifacts you have, the more mana he's going to give you to cast more artifacts. Very simple, just a big mana dork, essentially for 5 mana, but he provides a lot of mana if you have a lot of artifacts on the battlefield. Pretty straightforward. He's basically like a new Blinkmoth Nexus, except he only helps you, and he himself can be a very large creature. I mean, if you have like a Spine of Ishtar or a Meteor Golem on the battlefield, he can be a 7/7, and that's kind of respectable. As a commander, I actually think he's kind of neat. Colorless options for commanders are few and far between, and for the most part, if you are in a colorless deck, due to the very small card pool that you're working with, you're going to end up being at least halfway to an artifact deck. Most artifacts are colorless. Most of the cards that you're going to be running with that are colorless are artifacts, and you're going to have a lot of the artifact synergies and everything available to you. So you're kind of wedged into building an artifact deck. You're either building a full-on artifact deck, really, or you're building a deck that is trying to ramp into Eldrazi's with your artifacts. So it's either one or the other. So Karn just says, go all artifacts, and fair enough. There's not too many other options for it. There's like the Liberator, the Urza Battlethopter thingy. There's Traxos, a Scourge of Krug. But I think Karn kind of situates himself in OG Karn, for example, too. I think New Karn, though, situates himself very nicely. He's just big mana battery, lets you ramp into your Eldrazi or whatever. I don't know. But I think he's fine. He's not super exciting to me because he doesn't do anything. He doesn't like take artifacts in a new direction. He's just Blinkmoth Nexus. But he's good. He's fine. So I'm going to put Karn in the fine category. He's a B. He's fine as a commander. He's fine in the 99 of artifact decks. I have a Brutaclad deck that is artifact related, and I might try him out there. I do run Blinkmoth Nexus already in the deck. I have a preference towards non-creature spells over creature spells, but he might make enough mana that it will be worth it to me. Alright, we come to my personal favorite commander from the entire set, and it's not even close. This is a new Boros equipment commander, Nahiri Forge and Fury. This is for a red and a white for a legendary creature, Core Artificer. So it's a 6-drop, which is a lot of mana for a commander, especially in Boros colors. However, you can cast her for way cheaper. You can cast her for as little as 2 mana basically all the time if you have enough equipments, because she has affinity for equipments. So this spell costs 1 less to cast for each equipment you control. So if you control 4 equipments, then she will only cost a red and a white to cast. And if you cast her a second time, and you'll need like 8 mana this time. If you have 6 equipments, then again, you can just cast her for a red and a white. Obviously, having that many equipments on the battlefield is very difficult outside of very particular cards enabling it, because equipments aren't free generally. But it's pretty easy to get at least 4 on the battlefield, and then the Nahiri just costs 2 mana, and that's awesome. And then her payoff is very sweet. This is it says, whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. You may cast equipment spells this way without paying their mana costs. So Nahiri is essentially just a lot of impulse draw. You can only cast that spell until the end of this turn, so you have definitely a clock on actually casting the spells you exile this way with Nahiri. However, if you do exile an equipment card, then you get to cast it for free. So not only is she card advantage, a lot of card advantage, but she's also mana advantage. You get to cast the spells for free if they are equipments. So if you flip over an Argentum Armor, a 6-drop equipment, you get to just cast it for free, which is just it's really good. It's really exciting. Obviously less exciting if you're exiling your Teferi's protections, or board wipes when you don't need board wipes. A red impulse draw is not perfect. It's not equivalent to just drawing cards. However, if you can stack your deck with full of equipments and put the top card of your library stacked with equipments, then oh boy, Nahiri is just super fun. So Nahiri is not the only Boros equipment commander we've ever had. I think we have a dozen of them, and I'm a bit of a hypocrite because I've been harping on about how I'm really bored of Enchantress, especially Selesnya Enchantress these days. I've just seen so much of it, and I used to be a big fanboy, and I just stopped being one. I'm a hypocrite because Boros and equipments are basically synonyms. At this point, there's a dime a dozen of Boros equipment commanders, and even in the last year, basically every set basically has a new Boros equipment commander. And so why is it that I harp on Selesnya Enchantress, and yet I'm gushing over this new Boros equipment commander? And the answer is just I'm a hypocrite. I like what I like. Sue me. I just like Boros equipment. And this one's one of the spiciest ones. I used to play, or I currently have, a paper Akiri Fearless Voyager deck, which is pretty simple. It draws a card for each opponent I'm attacking, and it offers some inherent resiliency to removal by giving stuff indestructible. And I'm seriously considering replacing Akiri with Nahiri. I mean, at the very least, I'm going to be trying her out, doing a test run very soon, just because the card advantage, while I think probably on the worse end with Nahiri than Akiri, because I could draw up to 3 with Akiri. Nahiri, I could draw more cards, but I have to still play them by the end of the turn, so it's a little bit inherently clunky. Being able to just cast my equipments for free, though, that's spicy. I have Cauldron in the deck. Cauldron ain't cheap. Cauldron is a 3-drop, a 4-drop, and a 5-drop, I believe, which is a lot of mana. So being able to cast my Cauldrons for free is really sweet. Nahiri also works just well with cards that recently got printed, like Living Weapons, equipments that enter the battlefield already attached to a creature, and also for Muradin, which was from 2 sets ago, which enter the battlefield for Rebel attached to it. Those cards, you just play your equipments. They are hits off Nahiri, and they themselves, as soon as you play the equipments, they themselves are equipped creatures, so they will trigger Nahiri as well. So that's also really good. There's also ways of getting a whole bunch of equipments on the battlefield, so Nahiri is going to be always super cheap. Tago makes a bunch of rock equipments whenever a land enters the battlefield. And I think there's one more. There's Bloodforged Battle Axe, which duplicates itself, makes token copies of itself whenever you're dealing combat damage with it. So those are 2 ways of just like flooding the board with cheap equipments that will make Nahiri always very cheap. So I can talk about Nahiri for an entire episode, but I'm not. I'm just going to just say that this is the S. This is the only S I believe that I'm going to give from the entire ranking scale. We'll see. Maybe not. I haven't really strictly analyzed all these commanders, but this is the one that I'm personally most hyped for when I saw it in the previews. And yes, I am a hypocrite. Yes, I'm not tired of Boros equipments. Maybe I'll be tired of them in another year, but right now, I'm really excited for Nahiri. Alright, next we have Narset Enlightened Exile. This is Jeskai cast non-creature stuff from graveyards. I don't know why I said it weird. It's a 1 blue, red and a white legendary creature human rank that says creatures you control have prowess, which is really cool. That's like Jeskai ability. And then whenever Narset attacks, exile target non-creature non-land card with mana value less than Narset's power from a graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So OG Narset, kind of notorious for being a little bit of a scamp, kind of busted. And whenever she was attacking, I think you like exile the top 4 cards from your library, and then you get to cast like all non-creature cards from them for free. It was busted. Anything you did with it was busted. If you wanted to go like semi-CDH, you do like a bunch of extra turns and extra combat spells and just win the game off your first attack. But even anybody who was doing like a fair version of original Narset, they would do like Super Friends or tokens or whatever. It was always busted. It was too easy. This one is kind of harkens back to original Narset, but is it's more fair. It's more fair. It's just whenever you attack, you get to just cast 1 non-creature spell. And it's not just like 4 off the top of your library or whatever. It has to be in the graveyard first. You get to target anybody's graveyard though, which is cool. That's more versatility there. But this is very, very fair compared to the original Narset, while still maintaining a little bit of the flavor. That said, I don't know what I'd really be doing with Narset. Like, you could Faithless Looting away an Omniscience or whatever, and then cast it for free if you're able to pump up Narset's power enough. And she does have prowess, so it's pretty easy to do that. But there's a lot of hoops that you have to be jumping through for this one for it to be super powerful. I think Narset, you don't really have to go for like huge setups of her in this version. You could just like, take an extra combat or take an extra turn and then subsequently attack with Narset, cast it again, and that will be fine. I think it will be very powerful, but it will be fine. I don't know. She's a watered down version of her original self. Her original self kind of put such a bad taste in my mouth, honestly, that I don't know. I see new Narset and she kind of like is an echo of what she was, and I feel nothing. Oh no. My little guy fell down and I don't have time to put him back up, so oops. So I don't know. Nothing about the new Narset sparks joy. The original sparked disdain. This one sparks disinterest. So I don't know. I'm going to put her as a C. Maybe I'll maybe I'll be inspired to do something cool let me know in the comment section if you have any cool ideas for the new Narset. But for me, I just see her as a less broken version of her original who does kind of similar stuff. And I don't know, I'm just not interested. Meh. Alright, here's one that excites me. This is Nashi Moon's Legacy. It's kind of similar to the Narset we just saw, but for some reason, just not having the name Narset excites me a lot more. This is a Sultai Legendary or Rats Matter Commander. It's a black, a green, and a blue, so just 3 mana for a legendary creature, Rat Shaman with Menace, Ward 1, and whenever Nashi attacks, exile up to 1 target legendary or rat card from your graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy. So Nashi can do one of 2 things, or both, really. It could be a legendary deck, or it could be a rat deck, or it could be both. Maybe legendary rats, I don't know. You just want to have ways of efficiently milling your graveyard. You could use tutor effects like Entomb or Buried Alive to have targets for Nashi immediately, or you could just do stuff like Mesmeric Orb or like Sultai Sidisi stuff to just mill the entire table, including yourself, to have targets for Nashi. And then whenever you attack, you get to cast something for free, essentially, from the graveyard. Now, if you were going for Legendaries Matters, I would start putting cards like Muldrotha, for example, the Gravetide, or just like Reanimator rather, legendary creatures, maybe Junji, the big old legendary dragon, stuff like that. And that's where I was personally really excited for. I thought the rat card part was cute, but like, meh. I mean, we have so many rat commanders. Why would I do that? And then I went on EDH Rec and I just saw that like the entire page is dominated by rat tribal. So that's where most people's heads are at, actually. It's rat tribal. Rats are surprisingly like a very small tribe in Commander, and yet it's one of the most popular ones. It's one of the most popular ones in the entire game, and it boggles my mind. But the people really love Relentless Rats effects. So, good for them. I personally, Rat Tribal has never been something for me, so I'm more excited about the legendary part, but I'm excited that, people are excited for both the legendary tribal part and the rat tribal part. It appeals to 2 different factions, and why not? That's fun. So for me, Nashi is a really exciting legendary self-mill style commander, reanimator style commander, and I'm going to put him as an A. He's also really cool with like populate effects. If you have ways of copying tokens, that could be super fun too. Like Adrix and Nev, for example, can fit in the deck too, and that opens up more doors for Nashi. And I don't know, it's an open-ended commander, seems relatively powerful. I would like to give it a shot. All right, next up we have Nissa, Resurgent Animus. This is a 2 and a green, 3-drop legendary creature, Elf Scout. I just find Nissa funny because she was like all Phyrexianized a set ago, and she had like 4 arms, and now she's fine. She's all better. Look at her. She's great. She's thriving. And she has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, add 1 mana of any color. So it's basically a Lotus Cobra. Then, if this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an elf or elemental card. Put that card into your hand and the rest onto the bottom of your library in a random order. So, oh boy, this card is actually very spicy, I think. This could be like some sort of like combo deck where if you have like a single elf or elemental in your deck, you can just guarantee to find it every single time, every single game. But I don't think most people are going to be going for that. You're going to jam Nissa, I think, as part of the 99 of an elf deck or even an elemental deck. She works fine in both of those. And she's just good value engine. She's a 3-drop Lotus Cobra, so she costs 1 more than a regular old Lotus Cobra, but if it's a second turn, she also just puts a card into your hand. You can build around her as some sort of combo deck. Again, if you have like one particular elf or elemental card that you're trying to find each game and have like a hidden commander theme that way. But personally, I think she's going to show up mostly in the 99 of decks. I think her abilities are very powerful, but if you're an elf deck, for example, Golgari is just so good for elves these days that I think adding black is just very enticing. And then if you're elementals like being multicolor. They're at least like Teamer, for example. So I think she's going to fit better in the 99 there. However, she is a very powerful commander. Especially if you go like full landfall, if you have like all the fetch lands, all the ways of like instant speed put lands onto the battlefield, you can be activating her second ability a lot, and it's going to be pretty disgusting. But I think she just fits in any landfall deck, really. She's just really, really good, and she's good in any elf deck and in an elemental deck. She's just very powerful. I think she's one of the strongest cards in the entire set. That said, where would I want to see her? I think I see her as a B, honestly. Green Landfall is not super exciting for me personally. And while I probably will put her in like Jolriel, for example, in the 99, I don't see her personally exciting me as a commander. I will try her in the 99 though. She's fine in the 99. I'm going to put her as a B though. She's not something that I would be actively looking forward to for building around as a commander. Though, if she just shows up on my lap as a commander deck, I won't say no. I'll be pretty hyped to play her, but I'm not going to go out of my way to build her. Next up, we have yet another Niv Mizzet. It's Niv Mizzet Supreme, so he costs even extra at the burger joint. He is a WUBRG commander, legendary creature dragon avatar, because he is the guild pack leader. And so he's a 5-drop, WUBRG, 5-color, flying, hexproof, and monocolored. Each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard that's exactly 2 colors has Jumpstart. So you may cast that card from your hand or from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other cost, then exile it. I love Niv Mizzet. He's one of my favorite characters. I miss him as the Izzet guild leader. I like him more as blue and red. I'm not so much a fan of his WUBRG phase, but it's totally on brand for his character to have such a high ego that he wants to rule everything. Super on brand. This version though, yeah. Yeah, it's 5-color Spellslinger, but just giving everything Jumpstart, or giving your 2-color spells Jumpstart, is that enough to be excited for as a 5-color Spellslinger commander? Would I not rather just play like Ramos or something? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section what do you think you would do Niv Mizzet Supreme, and how tasty it would be as a burger. I think he would be too many flavors. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have too much to say about this. I saw Niv Mizzet and I was like, ooh. And then I read the card and I was like, eh. So despite being an Izzet fanboy, I'm just going to put him in the C tier. Maybe even a D tier. I'm just not vibing with the new Niv. I like the art though, actually. I like the art. I'm going to put him in C. Maybe D is a little bit too harsh. He might be really interesting. Let me know in the comment section what you would do of Niv Mizzet. Is there some cool stuff that I'm missing? Just my initial impression of him was like, eh. I don't know. I've seen Niv Mizzet, Firemind. That was my OG favorite. Then Perun was my personal favorite. I have a CDH deck for Niv Mizzet. And then every other one, I'm just kind of like, eh. I miss his older days, you know? Like, I'm like a fan of a band that has progressed musically, but I really like their original stuff. And that's my impression of Niv Mizzet. After he went 5-color, he sold out, man. He got too big. All right, next up we have a commander that I know has a lot of hype, at least from my coworkers. This is Ob Nixilis Captive Kingpin. This is a Rakdos ping commander that also deals with Exile Matter stuff. So it's a 4-drop, 2, a black, and a red for a legendary creature demon, flying, trample, so flample. Whenever one or more opponents each lose exactly 1 life, put a +1/+1 counter on Ob Nixilis. Exile a top card of your library until your next end step, you may play that card. So Ob Nixilis is a card advantage machine. Rakdos is really good at making opponents lose exactly 1 life. Red has a 1,001 ways of pinging people for 1 damage. There's like Lobber Crew, there's Pyrohemia in red, and black is also really good at doing that too. Almost as good as red is with stuff like Pestilence, which is just the original Pyrohemia, and Extort effects, life drain effects that drain for exactly just 1 life. So there's 101 ways in Rakdos to ping people for exactly 1 life, growing Ob Nixilis at a crazy fast rate, and also giving you access to basically all the cards you need at any given time. So Ob Nixilis is going to end up being a group slug style commander that is going to evoke a lot of similar enablers like Rakdos Lord of Riots, who also loves efficiently pinging opponents to cast spells for very high mana reductions. So I would look at Rakdos Lord of Riots for a lot of the enablers. And then for the payoffs, well, first of all, you're making Ob Nixilis into a one-shot killer with Flample, which is very exciting. That's payoff number 1. But payoff number 2 is you're going to be exiling a ton of spells and casting a ton of spells from exile. So I would look at Prosper, because Prosper has a lot of payoffs for casting spells from exile. So you would definitely want to put Prosper in the 99 of this style of deck, and look at all the other cards that say whenever you cast a spell from exile, you get to do really cool things. Ob Nixilis will love all those cards too. So I vibe with Ob Nixilis. I think he's one of the strongest commanders out of the set, and he's also really exciting, and he just kills people, and I appreciate people who just kill people. Boom. Easy A. You know, one of the top A's actually. I would put him as a top A for me. Yeah. All right, moving on, we have Pia Nalaar, Console Revival. There's a Boros Thopters, which is kind of cool. Legendary creature, Human Artificer. Thopters you control have haste, and whenever you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. So this is like a Boros, a 2-drop Boros Thopter Storm deck. It's Exile Matters. You want to cast stuff from exile, you make Thopters. The Thopters have haste, you can immediately attack. So it's all about Exile Matters. Red is all about Exile Matters. We've seen it a dozen times recently. Exile Matters is like the primary red thing these days. And this is a payoff for that. What do I want to do with it? Do I want to build like Thopter Tribal or something? I don't know. I think Thopters are primarily like red and blue. I mean, they primarily are colorless. But do I want to build like a Thopter Tribal deck off Pia Nalaar? I don't think so. What I personally am most excited for is Thopter Storm. I just want to cast Dance of Calamity. I want to have basically a deck full of 0 drops as much as possible, so I can just Dance of Calamity my entire deck or most of my deck, and have Pia Nalaar as my commander, cast Pia Nalaar, cast Dance of Calamity, exile basically my entire deck, cast all the cards from exile, make a bunch of Thopters, and then swing for lethal with my Thopters thanks to Pia Nalaar's haste. That's what's exciting for me. So I want Boros Thopter Storm, basically Boros ad nauseum. That's the only thing that excites me about Pia Nalaar. Otherwise, not really that excited for her, but I think that's pretty funny, right? Like Dance of Calamity, Boros Thopter Storm, Boros ad nauseum at home. I don't know. That's exciting to me. So I'm just going to put her as an A because I want to do it at least once. I don't think I'm going to do it more than once. Once I do it once, I'm happy, but I'm really excited to do it at least once. All right, now we have the Return of the Deans, except they're on a single card and they have less text. Hooray. It's Plarg and Nassari. It's a 5-mana mono red legendary creature orc Ifrit. And at the beginning of your upkeep, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. An opponent chooses a non-land card exiled this way. You may cast up to 2 spells from among the other cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. So this is again Impulse Draw, but it's a lot of card advantage. And it doesn't whiff. So it's kind of like a stolen strategy that has gotten an upgrade. And it's a 5/4 Ifrit, so you can start punching people for 5 damage. That's always fun. I think this card is decently powerful. I don't really want it as a commander though. It's kind of generic and not super built around me as a commander. But as part of the 99 of basically any sort of Exile Matters deck, yeah, I'd try it out. It sounds really good. So Plarg, you get a solid B. I don't want you as a commander, but I love you as a 99. Next up we have Rocco Street Chef. This is a Naya Group Hug commander, but Exile Matters Group Hug commander. It's a 3-mana legendary creature elf druid. At the beginning of your end step, each player exiles a top card of their library. Until your next end step, each player may play the card they exiled this way. Whenever a player plays a land from exile or casts a spell from exile, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and create a food token. So everybody gets to draw a card essentially. But whenever they cast the spell or play the land that they exiled with the card that you gave them, you get a +1/+1 counter on something, so you grow something, and you get a food token. So you get more value than the value you give to the rest of the table, hopefully, kind of. It's probably not quite the right trade-off, though, because giving a card is much better than giving a card to your opponents, so you're going down basically like 3 cards compared to your opponents, is probably better for them than you just getting some extra +1/+1 counters and food tokens. However, if you're up against like a red deck that has a lot of impulse draw, you're going to get even more value off Rocco. That said, I'm not excited about this. I don't really like group hug decks. The stuff that you get in return for helping your opponents is smaller than what you give out, I think. So it's kind of an imbalance there. I like political decks where like you give your opponents a couple resources, but you got way more resources in return. And I don't think Rocco kind of fulfills that goal for me. This is more of a like actual group hug where you're giving your opponents more resources than you gain. So it's not my type of game. I know a lot of people are group hug players, so they're going to be really excited about this, and good for them. But it's just for me, I'm not super excited. So for me, Rocco, you're a C. Sorry, not going to run you. All right, next we have Samut, Vizier of Naktumun. This is a 3-mana Gruul Haste Matters commander. It's a legendary creature, human, warrior, cleric with first strike, vigilance, and haste. And whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, if the creature enters the battlefield as turn, you draw a card. So you just play hasty creatures, and then when those creatures deal combat damage, you get to draw a card. Maybe you add like a little bit of a Blink sub-theme or a way of bouncing the back to your hand so you could repeatedly draw cards off them all the time. But for the most part, it's kind of meh. It's kind of like a Toski effect, a Coastal Piracy effect with extra steps. And the extra steps, I don't know if it's going to be enticing enough for me to actually build around. It's fine. It's a 3-drop that draws you a bunch of cards. It's a first strike, vigilance, haste, so it's going to draw a card itself when you cast it for the first time and it enters the battlefield. It's fine. I'm just not really excited for it. I don't know. Is it good enough for a Haste Tribal 99 card? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not excited. I'm just going to put it as a C and move on. Next up, we have a new Izzet a Dragon Tribal Commander. This is Sarkhan, Soul of Flame. This is 3 Izzet. Legendary creature, human shaman. Dragon spells you control cost 1 less to cast. And whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, you may have Sarkhan, Soul of Flame, become a copy of it until end of turn, except its name is Sarkhan, and it's a legendary in addition to its other types. So it's a mana discount for your dragon spells. Awesome. It turns into the dragon that enters the battlefield, so you have double the dragon power, and you smash somebody in the face until end of turn. Very fine. That's a lot of value for a 3-drop. If you compare it to another 3-drop mana dork, I think it's like Dragon Speaker Shaman. Dragon spells cost 2 less, so it's significantly less than that. But the Dragon Speaker Shaman doesn't turn into the dragon and smash people in the face for that extra value. So I think Sarkhan's overall better than a Dragon Speaker Shaman. That said, do I want Sarkhan as my dragon leader? And the answer is like a resounding no, because there's like a billion dragon commanders these days. Like, especially the last year, I feel like every single set was a dragon set, including like this one. So there's like a billion dragon commanders. If you want to be a dragon commander, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be the Ur-Dragon, because that's by far the most popular one. It's 5 color. And if you want to be Teamer, you're going to go Murim. And if you want to go Izzet, I would still say Sarkhan no. I would much prefer Furkrag, who, I don't know, just slaps. It literally, that commander absolutely slaps. Sarkhan's fine. He's really good. And if this was a worse tribe, I would be more excited about him. But because this is specifically dragons, it has to be like so over the top, comically overpowered these days that to catch my attention, that anything less than that, anything that's just good, just does not cut it for me. I don't know. Personally speaking, this is not too interesting. It's going to be fine in the 99 of some decks too, but even most dragon decks, I don't know if I'd run him. Poor Sarkhan. So Mr. Sarkhan, I'm sorry, but you're going to be relegated to C. I think you're probably better than I'm giving my first impressions on, but I don't know. Maybe it's dragon fatigue. There's so many dragons and so much dragon payoff in support cards, especially in like the last year. It's kind of insane that he's just like a drop in the bucket, and he just doesn't do enough for me. I don't know. All right, we're coming down to the final 3, and this is one that I like a lot. This is Sigarda, Font of Blessings. This is Selesnya Human Tribal and Angel Tribal support card that works really well and is really fun. It's a 4 mana, 2, a green and a white, legendary creature, Angel, flying. Other permanents you control have hexproof, so this is like a Shalai effect or a privileged position effect. And you may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may cast angel spells and human spells from the top of your library. So this is very efficient protection on a 4/4 flyer, but the main draw is going to be that its card advantage for Human Tribal and Angel Tribal. Now, Human Tribal has a lot of card advantage options. Angel Tribal, not so much. Most of your card draw options are going to be life gain, and some of them are kind of good, but most of them are very sus. This one is just like straight, like, oh, you have a bunch of angels in your deck, or you have a bunch of humans in your deck. Well, you get to draw a lot of cards. Obviously, it gets a little bit better if you have top deck manipulation, like if you have like a Sylvan Library effect or a Scroll Rack or something like that, some way of guaranteeing that you have angels or humans on top of your library, it gets a lot better. But even so, even if you're whiffing some turns, being able to just give all your stuff hexproof is already very good on a 4/4 flyer with a relevant creature type. So I think this is going to be really powerful in Human Tribal decks. It's just another source of card advantage and protection, and it's going to be even more interesting in Angel decks, which just don't have this style of effect that much. I think she's going to be showing up in the 99 of Human Tribal decks, and she's probably going to be a new commander for Angel Tribal. The most popular Angel Tribal right now is Giada, which just came out like a year ago or two, and this is one of the first other real contenders for a multicolor Angel Tribal deck. So if you want to go Selesnya Angels, there's not a lot of Selesnya pickups for Angels. There's a bunch of Sigardas. I can't really think of any others off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are at least one or two. I think there's one from Mirage, actually, that's really old school. But I think she opens the doors for Angel Tribal in a way that is worth it. Just having access to green means you have access to so much better ramp options, and angels are inherently a lot of mana. So just even if you're not adding a bunch of new angel cards when you switch over from Giada or Lyra or whatever to Sigarda, the fact that you have access to green ramp means your deck is going to run so much more smoothly. So this is really exciting. I think this is a really cool step in the evolution of Angel Tribal, one of the most popular tribes in the entire deck, that even to this day, even like decades later of Magic the Gathering and it being one of the most popular tribes, we just don't have that much multicolor legendary tribal support. So this is really cool. I like it. So Sigarda, you're an easy A. I'm excited to play her, especially as a Angel Tribal leader, and I'm excited to put her in the 99 of Human Tribal decks. All right, we come across a big one in terms of opening up new archetype space. This is 5-color activated ability creature tribal deck. This is Tazri, Stalwart Survivor. She costs 2 and a white. So this is a mono white creature. However, it has a commander identity of WUBRG due to its activated ability. So it has 2 abilities. Each creature you control has tap, add 1 mana of this creature's colors. Spend this mana only to activate an ability of a creature. Activate only if this creature has another activated ability. And you can spend WUBRG and tap her to mill 5 cards. Put all creature cards with activated abilities that aren't mana abilities from among the milled cards into your hand. So she has a Birds of Paradise ability for activated abilities. All your creatures can now tap for mana, but it could only be spent to activate activated abilities. And then she has a WUBRG ability, tap her, mill 5 cards, and then basically be card advantage. Put the milled cards that are creatures with activated abilities into your hand. So she's creature activated ability tribal. And she's 5-color. So there's a very small minority of people I know in the Commander community who have long had a 5-color creature activated ability deck. They're using stuff to untap them, like 1,000-Year Elixir. They're using stuff to copy their abilities, like Rays of Brighthearth. They're using Spell Seekers or whatever, the ones that discard a card and do an activated ability thing. They love this. It's like a janky archetype that's been around for like as long as I've been playing Commander, so over a decade now. And it's always been 5-color. It's always been doing tapping and untapping shenanigans, but it's never actually had a Commander. So Wizards of the Coast, in current 2023 design philosophy, it says basically every single archetype, every single niche in Commander must have a Commander for that archetype, and it will write out exactly what it wants to do. And that's Tazri. Finally, 5-color tap, untap, activated ability for creatures has an official commander. Boom, we have Tazri. I'm very bittersweet about this, where I think a lot of people are going to be really happy about it, but It definitely is shutting the door on old school commander philosophy where a lot of people were building zany decks and coming up with their own archetypes, and they were just building with what they had. They were designing new archetypes with whatever card pools they had. They would use commanders not for the commander themselves, but for the colors so they could enable their wacky designs. And there was very like off the rails, a very Wild West. And now in 2023, basically everything must be on rails design. Everything that you are interested in must have everything built already for you. And I feel like something has been lost in original commander design. It's a rant. I'm sorry, but that's like a thought that I've had. It's not necessarily worse. I think it's overall better for the game that everything is on rails because it's more new player friendly. It's more easier for casuals and stuff. But for the hardcores who like tinkering and like exploring new territory, that territory is all gone. It's all on rails now. So something has been lost. I think overall it's a good thing, but I think Tazri is just emblematic of that, where this really old niche has now had a commander designed specifically for it. But with all that said, do I want to try out Tazri? Heck yeah, I want to try out Tazri. That sounds fun. I'm going to put her as an easy A. Maybe even an S, honestly. I think she's very exciting as exploring new ground. Again, this archetype has existed before, but now we have an official commander for it. There's going to be a resurgence of interest in this archetype. The archetype will expand, and that's kind of exciting. So yeah, we'll put her as an A. And then the final new commander from the set is Tyvar the Bellicose. This is a 4-mana Golgari elf tribal commander, essentially. Legendary creature, elf warrior. Whenever one or more elves you control attack, they gain death touch until end of turn, and each creature you control has, whenever a mana ability of this creature resolves, put a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the amount of mana this creature produced. This ability triggers only once each turn. So again, very mana efficient commander, 4 mana. All your elves that are attacking have death touch, so they trade up very easily. And then your elves generally tap for mana, or your arbor elves or whatever, they tap for mana, so they can grow themselves, which is really fun. So all of them are tapping for mana, they're growing themselves, and then after 1 or 2 turns, they're large enough that they can start swinging out for lethal damage. So it does everything your elves kind of want to be doing. They want to be tapping for mana, and now Tyvar is turning them into finishers very effectively. That said, is this going to be the new Golgari elf commander? Probably not. Lathril is just so good that any comparison to it is going to be very difficult. She's kind of like the Edgar Marker of elves. It's really hard to dethrone the queen. Tyvar is a really good other alternative option, but I think more realistically, Tyvar is just going to be showing up in the 99 of stuff. He does do a little bit different stuff. He does enable tap creatures a lot better than Lathril does, who just poops out elves instead. So maybe I'm downplaying Tyvar. Maybe he actually has worthy tricks to put him in the command zone. I think he's really exciting. I don't really play elves that much, but I would be interested in trying Tyvar out, and I think he is a very strong option. At the very least, he's going to be very strong in the 99 of any elf deck. So I'm going to put Tyvar as an easy A. I think he is a cool elf commander. I like Golgari elves. I've played Lathril a whole bunch, and I am excited for an alternative, and Tyvar does excite me in that way. And I think he's a good design. So there you go. Here's my tier list in terms of hype. This is my personal hype list, basically where I would categorize them as commanders or part of the 99. S tier is Nahiri. That's the one that excites me the most, so I put her up way up at the top. A are all commanders that I really want to try out at least once, and I want to try them out sooner rather than later. B are commanders that I would probably want them more in the 99 of things as opposed to commanders themselves, but I will want to try them out at some point. C are stuff that I don't see myself playing ever, or maybe once in a blue moon, but I'm not going to actively seek it out. And there's nothing here that I would say is like actively D, like a bad design that I just am sad that they printed, for example. So that's my personal list. Let me know what you think about the new commanders from Aftermath. Let me know if there's anything crucial about any of the cards that I was looking at that I missed or glossed over, and what you are most hyped about. Let me know in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. This is a long, rambly one, so I appreciate you all sticking with me. If you like this sort of content, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. All right, see ya. Bye.